There's news tonight that includes the words troop, withdrawal, and Iraq. The deal calling for the U.S. to pull out of that country by December 2011, bringing to mind another word, timeline. In our fourth story in the countdown, with still over a month to go before Barack Obama takes office, we wonder out loud, what do we do now when it comes to the war in Iraq and when it comes to torture? The aforementioned deal, known as the Status of Forces Agreement, SOFA, calling for our troops to leave by the end of 3 years. It was signed into legislation this morning by Iraq's 3-member presidency council. That should be signed into law. The pact replaces the current UN mandate expiring at the end of the month. Meantime, it still faces congressional approval here at home. For his part, Obama, who has vowed to wait until January 20th before announcing policy or diplomatic decisions, did speak to Prime Minister Maliki to congratulate him on passage of the agreement. Obama's team also issued the following statement, quote, he, Obama, is committed to a responsible redeployment of American troops from Iraq and to respecting Iraq's sovereignty, and that he looks forward to visiting Iraq as president. There is one president at a time, and no date has been set for this trip, but President-elect Obama looks forward to seeing our men and women in uniform serving in Iraq. As for that one president, White House spokesperson Dana Perino.
I think that the fact that their representative leadership has signed this agreement today, that they recognize that they are going to continue to need our help for the next little while, but we have a path now to help our troops get home. And we're already bringing troops home, and we're going to be able to continue to do that as long as we solidify the gains that we've made.
The new SOFA comes just as a dozen retired senior military leaders met with members of President-elect Obama's transition team yesterday. They discussed ways to restore the U.S. image battered by allegations of torturing terrorism suspects. Among those who were at that meeting, the retired U.S. Army Major General Paul D. Eaton, who joins us now from Washington. Thank you for your time this evening, sir.
Keith, great to be with you again. Thank you very much.
And we will get to yesterday's meeting in a moment, but first I want to get your reaction to today's news. How difficult will it be to get our troops out of Iraq, and what will that country look like when we do get them out?
Well, Keith, we've got rational actors on both sides right now. The Iraqis are practical, and the Americans definitely want to make sure that this works. So we've got a marker on the table. We've wanted that for a long time. It will help discipline the process. And if we have to accelerate or retard the program, I think that the leadership on both sides will make this thing work.
On the subject of both Iraq and the issue you met with the Obama team about yesterday, torture, are you concerned at all that the President-elect's commitment to either issue might be wavering or might be deprioritized because, for instance, of the economic crisis he has to deal with firsthand?
Well, absolutely not. President-elect Obama has been absolutely consistent for ever since I have seen this man show up on TV for the first time, that he is going to turn this torture thing around. He is going to get the United States back into the international community in a proper fashion, adhere to the Geneva Conventions, get the ICRC involved. He has never deviated from that. When Human Rights First gathered all these retired generals, it was an effort to educate America, educate the United States that torture is bad. It's bad for the Army, it's bad for America, it's bad for standing in the world.
General Eaton, specifically about torture and specifically in that subject about its repudiation, one of your colleagues, General Fred Haines, said that the President-elect should make that repudiation, should begin it at least, in the inaugural address. Do you share his sense of urgency on that point, and if so, why?
Well, General Haines is a national hero. What he went through in World War II was the clearest example of treat your prisoners right, high payoff. And to get the wording in the inaugural speech would be a very quick, very high payoff repudiation of the past practice. And I am President Obama, and this is what I stand for. These are my values. These are America's values.
You think that would have more impact at home or abroad?
Well, we did ask, who is the audience? And frankly, it needs to be said to those who follow Jack Bauer and 24, who believe that torture works. It doesn't. The rational management of detainees will earn you far more information faster than than what we're seeing in popular culture here, but it also is going to transmit very heavily overseas.
As we heard from that special ops interrogator who's using the name Matthew Alexander in his new book about the practical impact of switching from torture to cooperation, to say nothing of what he found to his shock about how the freedom fighters who were showing up, or the foreign freedom fighters, if you want to use that term, who showed up to oppose us in Iraq, were explaining that their primary motivation for doing that was vengeance for torture at Gitmo and in Abu Ghraib.
You've got it, Keith. And if everybody in America could read that article, showed up 2 or 3 days ago in the Washington Post, and quick read, quick article, but it absolutely repudiates the abuse, the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques as inappropriate and ineffective.
Do we have to, do you think, does ending any foothold for torture in this country's policy mean simply ending the torture in the present and the future, or does it require going backwards as well in some kind of either prosecution format or documentation format of what has happened in our name?
Well, Keith, 2 parts. We have one standard: no torture, period, no exceptions. Otherwise, you dilute the standard and you lower the standard. And then that creates a real problem in understanding what the president wants, all the way down to the youngest private. With respect to your other part, taking a look at how we got here, we are a very forward-looking organization, but we believe that an examination of the past would be helpful. How did we get here? We had one of the retired generals liken it to a Class A or a serious accident investigation, where you're not looking for culpability, you're looking for how did the accident happen, how did it unfold, and when we know that path, we'll be better prepared to deal with future wars and future challenges.
And our responses to them, especially in times of great stress at home, as we saw in the last 7 years. Retired Major General Paul Eaton, great thanks once again for your time tonight, sir.
Hey, Keith, super, thank you.